Hi again, Dr. Lamb with Task 3, Post-Lesson Analysis. All right, you taught this wonderful lesson. You have collected assessments from your students. Now what are you going to do? What did you get from all that? What did you learn? What can you say your students learned, and what evidence do you have to show that? So in the post-lesson analysis, you're going to be answering these types of questions. You'll start by completing the first two sections on the template, analyzing teacher effectiveness and analysis of student learning. These two are required sections. The remaining sections, you'll be choosing at least one of those, but let's look at the required sections. Analyzing teacher effectiveness. How did your teacher support whole class learning and individual learning? How did you address special needs? What changes would you make if you taught this lesson again? What evidence do you have in student work samples that students did or did not understand the lesson? Can you identify patterns and support that with the student work samples, either patterns of understanding or patterns of misunderstanding? Use your student work samples to demonstrate this. And remember that this is not, this section is not about how well your lesson went or how effective your lesson was. This section is about how well are you able to analyze the effectiveness of your lesson. So we want to be able to see that you can actually look at the results and work through those results to give yourself a good idea as to how effective you were, what problems or issues did your students have, and what would you do to correct those things. Don't forget to pull in here any of the theories that we talked about and how they might have impact on your lesson. So here's the template. You can see some of the question starters. How's your instruction support learning? Changes would you make? Support your explanation with evidence. So use your student work samples that you collect to show the kinds of patterns that you're going to talk about in your explanation here. The second section is analysis of student learning. How'd you go about doing this? How did you analyze your students' learning? Again, you want to use work samples to show any kind of patterns that your students are demonstrating. You want to clearly demonstrate how the assessment that you used attempted to measure the student's level of understanding of the particular objectives for the lesson. Again, if we look over at the template, same question starters, reminders about the evaluation criteria being aligned to the objectives, and what patterns you might have seen for the whole class. In the next sections, you're just required to choose one of these following sections. Now, maybe your lesson, maybe the classroom design, maybe your field experience teacher's classroom design has built into it methods that are going to lead to response to more than one of these sections, and that's fine. You're certainly welcome to do that, but you're required to choose at least one additional topic to respond to. So, feedback to guide further learning. What type of feedback did you give the students specifically? Again, pull out the work samples. Talk about classroom structures that you had in place. Did you use thumbs up, thumbs down with the students? Did you Did you provide them with breaks in the lesson where you had them turn to partners and discuss while you walked around the room? What any kind of strategy that you included, and make sure that we're talking about both positive feedback and constructive feedback that identifies needs that the students have. Here in the template, again, what feedback did you give? I would recommend that you use work samples here. If you have a work sample that shows that you wrote a note back to the student about the success in this area or more explanation needed in this area, again, you should address both strengths and needs of the student related to the learning objective. Oops, wrong way. The next one is student use of feedback. Here you talk about what opportunities did you provide or would you provide for your students to utilize the feedback that you gave them. It's great to tell students that they need to go deeper on this question or capitalize these letters or whatever your lesson is about. But if they don't ever have the opportunity to do that, then that doesn't serve a great purpose. So what would your plan be if you gave them feedback during a lesson? Tell us what you expected in response to that. If you're responding about the assessment you gave at the end of the lesson and you gave them feedback on that, then what would be a future plan that you would set up that would allow students to respond to that feedback? Would you let them do that assignment over, or would you have a follow-up lesson? What would you do? Again, over here, feedback for further learning. Oops, sorry. Student use of the feedback. And the last two sections on the template. You have analysis of students' language use. At this stage in your understanding of EdTPA and the depth of writing lesson plans, I don't think I would recommend that you respond to this section. You're certainly welcome to. This is where you talk about the language use of your students and how you think, how you can demonstrate that the use of the language helped them understand their content, again, using work samples. This is a little deeper and uses specific EdTPA language that you're certainly welcome to respond to, but it wouldn't be my top choice of recommending a section for you. And last would be the use of assessment to inform instruction. This one is fairly straightforward. You just did an analysis of your lesson, how effective it was, what patterns you saw in the students, what challenges you might have had. You have student work that demonstrates that and shows, and you're able to show that with the evidence. So based on all that, what would you do next and why? Again, including any kind of strategies that would be specific to a target group identified by your assessments, by your analysis of this evidence. You saw that these 3 students were really struggling in this area. Okay, so address that. What would you do for them? So you have your whole group lesson, but then you target those individual groups. All right, so that is the end of the lesson plan. So if you have any questions, again, continue to contact your instructor or your facilitator and peers when you have workshop discussions.